All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our CCC Spotlight series. For May VHL Awareness Month, we are interviewing four separate medical professionals from the Comprehensive Clinical Care Center at Huntsman Cancer Institute in Salt Lake City, Utah. Huntsman will be hosting this year's VHL Alliance Annual Family Weekend in October. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Randy Jensen from the Huntsman Clinical Care Center. Dr. Jensen specializes in the neurosurgical treatment of brain tumors. He has a particular interest in using preoperative imaging, intraoperative navigation, intraoperative cortical mapping, and intraoperative MRI to maximize tumor resection and minimize surgical complications. He treats patients with malignant, benign, and metastatic brain tumors. Dr. Jensen is involved in many clinical trials for patients with brain tumors and has a laboratory effort examining brain tumor biology. He's also a member of the brain tumor research team at Huntsman and serves as residency program director and vice chair of education in the Department of Neurosurgery. Dr. Jensen, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
So let's jump right into it, Dr. Jensen. When and why did you first decide to become a doctor?
Well, interesting enough, I had a grandmother who suffered a subdural hematoma, and I saw a neurosurgeon firsthand when I was around 12 or 13, and somehow I got that in my mind that that's what I wanted to be. Looking back, that seems sort of funny now, but I started telling people that that's what I was going to do, and it just carried on through college. And when I got into medical school, I loved everything in medical school, but I particularly liked neurosurgery. And then that led to my neurosurgical residency, where I really fell in love with taking care of patients with brain tumors. And it's kind of a simple story, but that's kind of how it came about.
When did you become interested, and I guess how did you become interested in VHL?
Well, VHL, being such an interesting disease from a number of aspects, one was just, the genetics behind it and the interesting cluster of different types of problems that patients with VHL had, I thought was quite fascinating. But really, what really drew me to this was my laboratory had been interested in why tumors form blood vessels and how they form blood vessels. And that led us to be very excited about vascular endothelial growth factor, VEGF, which about that time in my laboratory, it had just been found out that the hypoxia-inducible factor family was largely responsible for controlling VEGF expression. And we started studying that protein, which is a fascinating protein. The individuals that just received the Nobel Prize were all people who were, I was able to hear firsthand speak, and who gave me different cell lines and things like that when we were getting started. And I had no idea that it was going to be such a fascinating story. And as that progressed and I learned how it fit in with VHL, it was just, it just made so much sense. Plus, I could see a light at the end of the tunnel that maybe someday we would have ways of dealing with the problems that come with VHL that didn't involve my services. We didn't have to do surgery for. So we're not there yet, but I could see that happening much more so than other brain tumors that I take care of.
Angiogenesis is really a fascinating process, so I share your excitement. What have been some of the most challenging and rewarding aspects of your job?
Well, when things go right, there is no better job in the world than neurosurgery. But when things go bad, it's not so great. As a matter of fact, sometimes you can't find a rock big enough to hide underneath, because it's so frustrating if a patient were to have a complication after surgery, or whether they were to have some complication related to their disease, and you feel powerless to be able to, sometimes you don't even know why it happened. And or even worse, it was a result of something that you wish you had recognized but didn't recognize in time, or something like that. So I think those things, those can be rather frustrating, because, we want everybody to have a good outcome. And sometimes, these brain tumors are unpredictable and difficult to take care of.
In your practice, how do you use imaging and mapping techniques to improve surgical outcomes?
Well, we've thankfully had just a real revolution, in the last 20 or so years, of our ability to take preoperative imaging, put it into an intraoperative navigation computer, and then use that like a GPS system in the brain to be able to find lesions that maybe in the past you would have had to search around for, or maybe even go through normal brain to find. Even better than that, we have the ability now to do intraoperative MRI, and we can even check our work partway through the operation and make sure that we've done what we set out to do, and that image that's taken in the operating room can be put back into the navigation computer, and you have an updated version of your navigation.
It's really amazing how far the technology and the techniques have come in such a short time. I wonder what you think the state of VHL will look like in 10 to 15 years with regard to like the CNS and hemangioblastomas.
Well, in regard to hemangioblastomas, I hope that maybe we figured out a way to reverse their growth without even doing any of the stuff I'm talking about. Going right to the heart of the genetic underpinnings and the molecular underpinnings, and stop that early. And a hemangioblastoma, if you could stop it before it makes a big cyst, or before it becomes big, we'd be fine with them if they want to behave nice. There's a lot of them that we observe anyway, and if you could just keep them a small size without any symptoms, I'd be perfectly content to never do surgery again. So, that would be the goal in the next 10 to 15 years, figuring out ways to treat them, or stop them from even developing in the beginning. That's really where the exciting part of this comes in.
And definitely that would make an incredible difference in the lives of patients and families, for sure. If you could give patients with VHL one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, this isn't going to sound like it's coming from a surgeon, so I'll apologize for that. You may hear this from other people, but I think that going to centers that have a really comprehensive system, that your whole family can be taken care of together, and that there can be counseling from available at all times for future planning and for screening. And I think that before we had a good system, and I would have patients that I knew had VHL, a neurosurgeon has a very, very narrow view of what VHL really is. I think it's a very important part of VHL, but quite frankly, there's a much bigger picture than the cerebellar hemangioblastomas, or even endolymphatic sac tumors. Those things are fairly uncommon, but taking care of the whole patient and having a systematic way of screening, counseling, support for the families. And so I think that going to some place that has the ability to do all of that, do the genetic testing, to be able to, just provide everything that a family might need, or even the friends of the family, or anybody who's be involved with a loved one with VHL, that they can come and be part of that.
I have to say, I couldn't have said it better myself, and we're so grateful to have exactly such a center at Huntsman. So often patients and family, they all get to meet you in the hospital, but we never really get to know you outside the hospital. So I wonder, what other passions and hobbies do you have outside the hospital?
Oh boy, my wife would tell you I have too many. I like to restore old cars and turn them into hot rods, and I like to do things with my family. My kids are all grown and out of the house now, but they still like to do these activities. We like to go to southern Utah and do rappelling trips and hiking down there. Love to ski. We're blessed with having a lot of wonderful ski resorts within 20 to 30 minutes. Backcountry ski, cross-country ski, downhill ski. We have all of that. And I do triathlons. My wife's the real triathlon. I'm very slow, but I do everything about half the speed that she does it, but I still like to do it because it's something fun we can do together. I don't know, anything like that is things I like to do.
Wow. I don't know how you have the time to run triathlons and also be operating on people. That's amazing. So as we mentioned, we're so excited to have the upcoming VHL Family Weekend taking place at Salt Lake City, hosted by Huntsman. And for people that will be coming to the city, what is your favorite thing to do in Salt Lake City that is unique to the city that somebody visiting just can't miss?
Oh, unique to the city. Well, things that aren't so unique. We have a wonderful symphony and opera and those sorts of things as well. But, in the fall, it'll be beautiful up the canyons. The drive up to Park City is spectacular. You could easily rent a mountain bike. You could go up to Snowbird and take the tram to the top and take your mountain bike or rent a mountain bike and take it to the top and ride it down or hike down. The leaves will be beautiful. The trails are very well marked. I would say do something in the canyon, and I think Snowbird or Park City would be a great place to do that. And there's all levels of, for the real adventuresome, you might ride to the top and try to ride your mountain bike down, do some of the fancy jumps and whatnot. And for those who would like something a little more tame, you can take a nice leisurely walk down a very wide, nice marked trail and enjoy the scenery and animals there. I think that's what I would do. Plus, the ride on the tram is pretty darn exciting at Snowbird. Even if you just want to ride the tram up and ride it down, that's great as well.
After all these months of quarantine, nothing sounds better. Seriously.
Yes, right.
Dr. Jensen, once again, I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us today, as well as for everything you do for your patients and the VHL community and all the research you do. It really makes such a big difference, and thank you so much.
Well, it's a privilege to be able to be involved in the care of families with VHL. They're some of my favorite patients, and I've got a great relationship, longitudinal, long-term relationships. That's just really fulfilling. And this is a great society. I love getting the newsletters and the updates from VHL groups, and I really look forward to having everybody here. And I appreciate you including me in this today.
Thank you. For everybody watching at home, you'll actually be able to meet Dr. Jensen in person at this year's Annual Family Weekend, hosted by Huntsman Cancer Institute at Salt Lake City, Utah on October 23rd to the 25th. You can find more information about the weekend, including registration, at vhl.org/family weekend. You can find more information about other great May VHL Awareness Month events at vhl.org/May Awareness. We hope you will join us for some future events, including the annual Family Weekend. Until next time, stay safe.